And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You're tuned in to Tapped Out. Hosted by Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine. Only on the BetQL Network.
All right, we're going to have a little bit of fun. The final segment of tonight's show. And we're going to switch from the Bryce Mitchell conversation to the Bryce Young type conversation, right? Because this week was the NFL Draft. You're scowling at me. I feel like you didn't.
No. You know what's funny is I was talking about this on the day after the draft on the local show down here. I called Bryce Young Bryce Mitchell a good 4 or 5 times during the show, and everyone's like, "Who is Bryce Mitchell?" I'm like, "Thug Nasty, dude. You don't know who that is?" just so you guys know how ingrained I am in with the fighting. I was like, oh, I kept calling the number 1 overall pick.
What did you say? Like, how did you answer that? Did you say that he's like a bullfighting, ant-eating dude? Like,
no, I answered it simply like that. I was like, hey, he's Thug Nasty. You guys don't know?
He's Thug Nasty. Wow. Honestly, if you looked at Bryce Mitchell on the street, and even if he told you he was a fighter, there's no way you would think that he was Thug Nasty. That's what makes it so great. Friend of the show. By the way, coming up next week, we're going to have some big guests for you. Henry Cejudo, Aljamain Sterling, Gilbert Darino Burns amongst the crew as we welcome on our producer, Jake. So it was a bad transition with the whole Bryce Mitchell to Bryce Young thing. I admit that. The only reason I tried to do that is to get us back to the whole NFL draft thing, because I think it'd be fun if we did a UFC draft. So here's the rules, all right? There's only 2 of them. Pay close attention. You can only pick 1 guy per weight class, and they have to be an active fighter. And if there's a guy that's been in the game for a long time, but he's no longer near the top of it, I'm not interested, right? This is a draft of current best UFC fighters. And we drew numbers during the commercial break. Jake gets the number 1 overall pick, followed by BT, and then yours truly. And I don't care because I don't need it. Which means that, Jake, you're on the clock with the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 UFC draft.
No need to keep him waiting. I don't need to be a GM in the back room for an hour deciding. Easy answer, number 1, John Jones, the GOAT. He's been the GOAT forever. He's still the GOAT. We just saw that a couple weeks ago. Number 1 overall, John Jones. Bring him on over to Jake team.
John Jones, put on your hat. Congratulations. You are now on Team Jake. I think that one was pretty obvious, which really opens things up, kind of like this year's draft, right? Mm-hmm. Heading into it, the week of, BetMGM had minus 20,000 as the odds for Bryce Young, not Bryce Mitchell. That would have been shocking to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. BT, you are now on the clock with the number 2 overall pick.
Do you think if Bryce Mitchell was the number 1 overall pick that he would go camo hat?
No doubt.
Absolutely. Tough pick. I'm going between 2 guys here, but ultimately I'm going to land with Alexander Volkanovski.
Alexander Volkanovski. I thought that might be the direction you were going. And as the general manager with the next pick, I had to keep that in mind. I thought, all right, maybe this is where I take Islam off the board, since you just took Alexander Volkanovski and Islam just beat him, right? Like, that seems like the very obvious thing to do. But I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. I'm going to be that first team that makes maybe a little bit of a stretch. I'm going to take Leon Rocky Edwards off the board with my number 1 pick. Remember, the class boys, in the words of the great Chael Sonnen, it's not history. It's current events, and we're talking about what this guy is and what he has done recently. I don't need to tell you. I know you're aware. With my number 1 pick, welcome to the team, Leon Rocky Edwards.
Damn. That's neither one of the picks you mentioned were the ones I'm going to go with. I'll keep it close to the vest because maybe I can get him in the next round.
All right, Jake, you're up.
Draft or am I up? Okay, I'm up.
No, you're up.
Robin here.
You're up.
All
Who
right.
do you got?
Well, I'll make it easy again. Islam. Give me Islam. John Jones and Islam. Team Jake. Are you kidding me? You guys are making this unfair. I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles over here.
Wow. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles did have a good draft.
We had a good draft.
They did.
We had a really good draft.
Very good draft. Very strong. Very strong.
How did in the second half of the Super Bowl, Jake?
Why are we talking about the past, man? It's all about the future.
I thought current events was the thing.
Yeah. That's my thing. Thank you. See, I have ADD, so I appreciate my brothers taking me back on course, which means with the second round pick for Team Tobin, who are you taking?
Very excited you did not take who I wanted to take, who I was even thinking about taking number 1 overall for me. And that is the man who just had the storybook ending, big-time knockout at UFC 287 in Miami, Stylebender, Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
Adesanya is an interesting one because you have to decide if you're going to draft a guy that high, right? You could have taken anybody off the board, and you just took him with the 5th overall pick. Are we sure that Israel Adesanya is still in his prime, opposed to maybe slowing down just a little bit? Right now, if you look at the past couple of years, I don't hold the Blachowicz fight against him necessarily, right? You're trying to go up a weight class, become the champ. That's kind of become the popular thing to do. It's if he was to step back into the cage with Pereira, and we might not see it for a while, we might not see it again. I want to know what the odds on BetMGM would look like. Obviously, Pereira's moving up a weight class, so it's going to be a minute before we see it. I just don't know that Izzy – what I'm trying to tell you in long-form way is I don't know that Israel Adesanya is still at the top of his game. He's still great, but I don't know if this is the best version that we've seen. Do you guys disagree with that?
Who would you pick at 185 to beat him?
Not a lot of guys. He's beat them all, dude.
Would you pick Hamzat to beat him? Like, would it be Hamzat? Like, you know, how many times does he have to beat the brakes off of Whitaker? Like, this dude has cleaned out the division and avenged his only loss in amazing style. No pun intended, but like, yeah, I think he's still okay. I feel we feel comfortable over here on Team Tobin with having Izzy on the team.
Izzy's
okay.
good.
If you feel
Izzy's
comfortable with him, then part of me wants to look at some guys that this time last year were unbelievably dominant, looked like they were unbeatable, and maybe they can get back to it. I'm talking about guys like Kamaru Usman. I'm talking about guys like Charles do Bronx Oliveira, right? Guys that were, again, champions, defended their belt multiple times, certain Hall of Famers. But since I already went kind of off grid the first time, I think I'm going to do it again. I'm that guy. I'm that team this year. And you brought up his name, so I'm just going to go ahead and take him. I'm taking Hamzat Chimaev off the board. That guy,
wow.
he might be. I know I'm crazy.
Talk about a reach.
But I'm fun. All right, Jake, you're up. Next pick.
That was my pick. You stole my pick.
Was it really? See, that's what a good GM does.
Hamzat's a great pick, and it's only the better pick compared to my next pick, which is the Rat Hat himself, Shavkat Rakhmonov, number 3 on my board.
Wow. I had him on my list, but I figured that he would still be there later on in the draft.
Dude,
so Jay,
he is the best welterweight right now, I think. He just hasn't had to fight Leon and Usman in the top yet. But you're going to see, dude, Shavkat's legit.
By the way, we're drafting 5. After this round, we'll reset and let you know our 3, and then we'll roll on here. Who you got with the 3rd round pick, BT? And we got to make it quick because, this radio show's wrapping up.
Cool. I'll go with my own GOAT, Amanda Nunes.
Great pick. Thought about taking her as well. You know what? We've been talking a lot about this guy during the show because he does fight for the belt next week. Unbelievably disrespected. Maybe the most disrespected champion of all time. But what's he defending it now? 3 times, 4 times in a row? I think he does it again coming up next Saturday against Triple C. I know that this is not the team I expected, but here we are. I'm going to take the Funk Master on my team. Give me Aljamain Sterling with my 3rd pick. What say you, Jake?
It's a good pound-for-pound pick right there. I like that. He was definitely on my board somewhere, but I got to go with the only other featherweight in the world who can't beat Alexander Volkanovski, and that's Max Holloway, because other than Volkanovski, who was already taken, no other featherweight beats Max. So Max is still up there for me.
Best boxer in the UFC, back on a winning streak once again. BT, your 4th pick.
Say the best guy on the roster who has never been undisputed champion. He beat the guy that Jake is just talking about, Dustin the Diamond Poirier.
Dustin Poirier. He's kind of another one of those guys. I think he's still in his prime. I just want to see him get a fight. What weight class are we considering Hamzat for the sake of this conversation? Can I take Colby or is that cheating?
No, you can take him because he's not a welterweight anymore.
Okay, yeah. All right. Give me Colby. You guys know I love me some Colby Covington. Last pick, Jake.
Last pick. I feel like I have to shake this up a little bit now. What about Brandon Moreno? Where do you guys have him at? Because I like him at my number 5.
I was thinking about Moreno that very high up on the list. I don't hate the pick at all.
I was thinking that. I decided to go the other direction and go with the next closest thing to heavyweight champion. And that's light heavyweight champion, old Sweet Dreams Jamal Hill.
Ooh.
Jamal Hill, great pick. Absolutely
Over
great pick,
Yuri?
because I was going to take him. So now
I think he's going to beat Yuri.
I do too. Man, do I take Yair? Do I give respect to Robert Whittaker? Do I take
already taking
Sean
a middleweight,
O'Malley? Since I already took all these other ridiculous picks, where do I go?
Sugar Sean's is tasty. Undrafted free agent for Sean O'Malley.
I guess I can't take O'Malley because I've already got the Funkmaster for that weight class. So give me. This is a tough one. Give me Robert Whittaker.
Yeah,
Robert Whittaker's a little bit like some of these other guys. Yeah, well, I got 1 minute left. What do you want from me? All right. Anyway, that's the show. As always, my team would beat these guys' team. We appreciate everybody listening. We appreciate our pro MMA bettor Andrew Gombas for joining us. Good timing if you're a fight fan, because coming up pretty much as soon as we sign off, you should get a chance to enjoy the main event. We've got Ricky Simone coming in as the favorite, taking on Song Yadong right now at even money at plus 100. And then don't forget, next week is the big one, 288 pay-per-view event live from Jersey. Cejudo versus the Funkmaster Aljamain Sterling. Co-main event, Bilal Muhammad takes on Miami's own Dorino Gilbert Burns. Also on that card, Jessica Andrade. You can catch Bryce Mitchell, Charles Air Jordan, Kron Gracie's fighting on the card, Drew Dober, Matt Favola. It's going to be a good one, and producer Jake is going to be octagon side for it, and we're going to be breaking it down with you next Saturday night right here on the BetQL Network. For Jake and everybody back in Chicago, my co-host Brendan Tobin, I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine, and I'll talk to you next Saturday night right here on Tapped Out. You're locked into the BetQL Network. Good night.